Hello dear viewers, it is once again time for the news here on Rwanda Television with me, Serge Nhore. And as always, we'll begin with the headlines. The Rwanda Biomedical Center has urged boarding schools in the country to adopt measures to fight malaria infections among students. And on the international scene, natural gas prices in Europe have risen after Ukraine ended the flow of Russian gas through its territory into the EU. Now the details. Thank you again for taking the time to join us. We'll begin in the eastern province where residents are reporting that they currently face no food shortages despite the challenges posed by the unusually dry period at the onset of the 2025A agricultural season. The season began with a dry spell that affected crops, particularly in the eastern province, known for its being susceptible to drought. However, the situation has improved significantly. Farmers are now harvesting beans, visible drying on communal grounds, while others are already threshing their crops. This abundance has kept food insecurity at bay in the region. As beans are being harvested, the community also anticipates a bountiful maize harvest, which is nearing maturity and expected to be ready soon. The supply of beans to local markets has already caused a noticeable drop in prices. The Director General of the Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Development Board has highlighted storage as a recurring challenge during harvest periods and is urging residents to avoid selling their produce at low prices to optimistic traders and to invest in long-term solutions for proper crop storage. Efforts to boost agricultural productivity and ensure food security have been a key focus since the 19th National Mushikirano Council held at the beginning of last year. Following directives from the Council, an unused arable land was cultivated, contributing to increased crop yields across various sectors in 2024. Now, environmentalists are warning that disposing of old clothes into water bodies and on farmland has harmful effects on both human health and the environment. Globally, and that includes in Rwanda as well, 92 million tons of old clothes are generated annually, with only 30% being recycled. We have the details with Adam Squizera.
The 92 million tons of used clothing generated worldwide, including in Rwanda, pose a significant threat to both human health and the environment, as materials are polluting soil and water at the end of its life cycle. When my clothes are torn, I immediately discard them. Whenever we used to go to farmlands, we would find torn clothes. Environmental expert Dr. Malaria explains that fibers from the fabrics persist in the soil for years, while the chemical residues they contain pose serious health risk to water users. Due to the materials used in the clothes, when it rains, the water runs off them, potentially polluting water bodies or affecting agricultural production. Gwasibon Shuti, founder of the fashion house Mezo in Yindi, shared that since 2022 they have refurbished 400 old garments and aim to restore up to 3,000 each year over the next 3 years. He elaborated on their process. This shirt, for example, was made from beetroot waste, along with other materials that don't harm the environment, as you can see from what I'm wearing. Abias Managaba believes that encouraging people to bring old clothes in exchange for payment could significantly contribute to the proper disposal of these garments, benefiting both the environmental and the country. These used clothes are brought back to Itexirwa, where they are refurbished. This process creates an opportunity to unite efforts, benefiting not just for the government, but also the business sector. Instead of polluting our environment, these clothes can be repurposed in a way that brings value and benefits. In Rwanda, 1.5 billion tons of waste are generated annually, yet only 4% is recycled and repurposed, including for use in clothing.
Rwandan students in India acknowledge that the strong relations between the two countries have enabled them to access education at some of India's top universities. This aligns with efforts by the embassies of both nations to strengthen diplomacy, trade, and tourism. Adam Squizera continues.
In Indian cities like Bengaluru and Delhi, Rwandan students are pursuing their studies in various universities, primarily focusing in science, engineering, and agriculture. Statistics reveal that between 2021 and 2024, 538 Rwandans have been benefited from studying in India, valuable skills. Jessica Tumukunde and Bahati Shaban are among the Rwandans pursuing their studies in India. They attribute the opportunity to achieve their education dreams to the strong relations between Rwanda and India, which have enabled them to access quality education that equips them to compete effectively in the job market. The strong relations between Rwanda and India benefits us as students by connecting us with lecturers and professors, allowing us to gain valuable experience that will help us to compete effectively in the job market. We believe that by the time we complete our studies here, we will contribute significantly to the country's development and the global community as well. In addition to students, statistics from the Rwandan embassy in India reveal that each month, between 20 to 30 Rwandans travel to India seeking advanced medical services. To promote Rwanda's tourism, India and Rwanda have signed the agreement aimed at promoting tourism based on mountain gorillas as a key attraction. In India, as a developed country, it is a major exporter of goods, particularly medical products. It also has significant investments in various sectors including mining, agriculture, construction, and others. Despite India's strong exports, figures for 2022-2023 reveal a trade gap between Rwanda and India. In trade, during that period, India exported goods valued at $140 million to Rwanda, while Rwanda's exports to India amounted only $40 million. Emile Mwepesi, Deputy High Commissioner of Rwanda to India, noted that there are ongoing strategies aimed at increasing Rwanda's exports to India. Indian consumers highly admire Rwandan coffee, so we thought about introducing it to the Indian market, along with minerals. Given India's growing economy, particularly in the industrial sector, Rwanda's lithium, which is in high demand in India, presents a great opportunity. Indians have 3,000 projects in Rwanda, and according to the Rwanda Development Board RDB report, in 2023, India was among the top countries that invested a lot in Rwanda, with an estimated value of $175.2 million. The High Commissioner of India to Rwanda, Mredu Pawan Das, emphasized that India is committed to continuing and expanding its relations with Rwanda across various sectors. These strong relations between Rwanda and India are long-standing, as they were further strengthened in 2018 when the India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, made his first visit to Rwanda. This visit deepened ties between the two nations, leading to agreements on cooperation in security, trade, dairy production, agriculture, and culture. Adam Squizera, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, Adams. Now, the Rwanda Biomedical Center has called upon schools to create more awareness about malaria and how to prevent transmissions among students and teachers. This call has come at a time when increasing numbers of malaria cases are being reported. William Evans Mutabazi with the details.
Dr. Emmanuel Hachizimana, Director of Vector Control at Rwanda Biomedical Center, says that it is important to encourage students to carry treated mosquito nets as they report back to their respective schools, and for schools to apply more than one measure to protect against malaria.
The advocate first to sleep under a treated bed nets. I know that each kid, students, is coming back to school with bed nets. This is the primary option or strategy for prevention of malaria. The second strategy, it can be usage of mosquito repellents, but good usage is very important. The products can work around 6 to 8 hours after disconnection of mosquito repellents. And also sanitation environmental management and sanitation. Each school can now make a choice of at least 2 preventive measures against malaria.
Some of the schools already receiving their students back told us that to better protect their students, they've acquired treated mosquito nets from Rwanda Biomedical Center at a low cost and are giving them out to students at only 5,000 each.
Makuru amaze igihe batubwira ko malaria imaze kusa nk'iyongera kugaragara. We
have learned from the news that malaria cases are on a rise, so we have taken measures to prevent stagnant water in our school that could work as breeding grounds for mosquitoes. And we are also giving students mosquito nets. We got these mosquito nets from RBC and we are giving them out to students at 5,000 Rwandan francs only. Some students do not like sleeping under mosquito nets, saying that they get headaches or that they itch. But as they report, we are ready to do more awareness and encourage them to sleep under mosquito nets and if need be, to make it a rule because prevention is better than cure. Students from various schools shared what their institutions are doing regarding malaria prevention measures.
First of all, when the term is starting every year, they make sure that we pay 5,000 in order for each student to get a net. And also, at least in each term, they spray in our dormitories some anti-repellent which chase away the mosquitoes in order not to bite us at night, and that helps us to prevent malaria. And also when you look also at our school, there are little cases of malaria.
In our school, we are required to bring treated mosquito nets and they frequently spray our dormitories. At our school, we find treated mosquito nets already hanging over our beds and our dormitories are sprayed. That is how we protect ourselves against malaria. According to Rwanda Biomedical Center, the country recorded 613,000 malaria cases in 2023, and by July of this financial year, that number had increased to 622,000 cases, highlighting the urgent need for all Rwandans to take extra precautions. William Evans, Mtabazi, RwandaTV News.
Thank you, William. Now, cattle farmers in the eastern province, particularly those living near the Akagera National Park, are calling on livestock authorities to enhance access to medicine and traps to combat the tsetse fly, which continues to threaten their cattle. The farmers have expressed deep concern over the fly, which bites their cattle, causing diseases that often result in death. They state that despite their efforts to apply insecticides, the problem persists and shows no signs of abating. The Director General in charge of livestock development at the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources has indicated that measures have been put in place to control and prevent the tsetse fly. According to a 2022 survey conducted by the ministry, over 81% of cattle in Nyagatare district are dairy cows, while Rubavu district follows closely with 82%. Kayonza has the lowest percentage of dairy cows at 51%, as a significant part of the district is occupied by the Akagera National Park, where farmers tend to raise beef cattle. The ministry encourages farmers to adopt modern practices such as keeping their cattle in enclosures to prevent diseases. The districts of Nyagatare, Gatsibo, Kayonza, and Chire are reported to have the highest presence of the dangerous fly. Now, domestic workers here in Rwanda are reporting that better understanding of their rights has led to increased respect from their employers, helping them to plan for their future when they eventually leave their profession. Domestic workers note that their profession previously faced challenges, including mistreatment from employers, with some even requiring them to use separate utensils. However, such issues are now rare. Both domestic workers and employers agree that finding household help is increasingly difficult, just as finding a reliable and skilled worker has become a challenge. In Kigali City, the salary for a domestic worker ranges between 30,000 and 120,000 Rwandan francs, excluding housing, meals, and other daily necessities that are often provided by employers. In Kigali and other parts of the country, most employers prefer hiring female workers over males, as much of the work involves caring for young children. Domestic workers who commute daily and possess additional skills such as car washing or tutoring children tend to earn higher salaries compared to those who cook, clean, or perform laundry services while staying at their employer's home. Welcome back, and now let us take a look at international news. Natural gas prices in Europe have risen after Ukraine ended the flow of Russian gas across its territory into the EU. Moscow supplied more than one-third of Europe's needs, but the continent has managed to wean itself off Russian gas following the Kremlin's 2022 invasion of Ukraine. VOA has the details.
Wholesale gas prices in Europe rose on Thursday to their highest level since October 2023. It follows Ukraine's decision to end the transit of Russian gas across its territory to Europe on January 1st. Moscow is set to lose over $5 billion a year, while Ukraine will lose around $800 million in transit fees. But the impact on Europe will be limited, says energy analyst Thomas O'Donnell.
It was all prepared for. It's basically all priced in. Now, of course, there's winners and losers to a certain point. Certain countries are more dependent on this than others. Slovakia, Hungary, for example, Austria. They will have plenty of gas. It's just that they'll have to pay more, like everybody else has all along.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said last month he would no longer give Russia the opportunity to earn additional billions, while its forces continued to wage a war of aggression on Ukraine's soil. Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico is close to Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two met in Moscow last month. Fico opposes Western support for Kyiv. Speaking Wednesday after Ukraine cut the Russian gas supply, he accused the EU of sacrificing the interests of smaller members for what he called meaningless geopolitical goals.
It will have drastic impact on all of us in the European Union, but not on the Russian Federation.
In reality, the European Union has drastically cut its dependence on Russian gas, thanks in part to a big increase in liquefied natural gas imports from the United States. Imports of Russian gas through Ukraine made up around 5% of Europe's total supplies in 2024. Some of the gas was sent on to Western Europe through Slovakia, and that explains Fico's concerns, says O'Donnell.
Slovakia was making, I think it's something like $500 million on transit fees, passing the gas across their country through their pipeline system onto others.
Before its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, Russia's state-run Gazprom was Europe's largest gas supplier. Putin miscalculated Europe's response, says O'Donnell.
Putin portrays himself as a great Russian nationalist. Well, this great Russian nationalist just lost one of the biggest businesses Russia ever had.
Moscow's other supply routes to Europe are limited. The Yamal-Europe pipeline via Belarus was shut down in 2022. Months later, the Nord Stream pipeline under the Baltic to Germany was sabotaged. Russia is still able to supply gas to Hungary, Turkey and Serbia through the Turk Stream pipeline. Henry Ridgewell, VOA News.
And that report brings us to the end of this edition, but before we go, another quick look at the headlines. The Rwanda Biomedical Center has urged boarding schools in the country to adopt measures to fight malaria infections among students. And on the international scene, natural gas prices in Europe have risen after Ukraine ended the flow of Russian gas across its territory into the EU. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Stay with Rwanda Television, and I hope you have a great week ahead of you. Goodbye.